What is up, Steelers Nation? Thank you so much for jumping on to another episode of All Steelers Talk. I'm Noah Strackbein, joined always by my man in the corner, producer Nick Belsky. Find us on youtube.com/All Steelers Talker. Subscribe anywhere you get your podcast. The Pittsburgh Steelers, oh my gosh, it never ends. The bad news started, the maybe worst news ended it, and every piece of it in between just got crazier and came with its own bend. We're diving into everything, starting with the news that broke last night on the Pittsburgh Steelers losing their top wide receiver target, a name I have, preached to everybody that the Steelers should be all in on. They won't be. Meanwhile, Justin Fields is looking at a new team. The Pittsburgh Steelers have been linked to yet another quarterback, and Trevor Lawrence responds to the Steelers and possibly getting traded here. And his answer is, well, it's not the greatest. It's not the worst, but it's not the greatest. It's a sunny one, but it is about negative 100 degrees outside in the city of Pittsburgh. Hope it's warmer down there. How you feeling, my friend?
It's warmer than zero, but I wouldn't call it warm by any stretch of the imagination. At least it's sunny outside, so it feels like it might be warm. I just need to stay far the F away from the windows because then I'll know how cold it is. But no, I'm feeling good. I'm ready to talk some quarterback news because it was weird yesterday. We talked about news and things that happened over the weekend, but it was a slow weekend in my eyes when we're talking about Bill Belichick and who he's getting now. I think I overcorrected here with some of the news that we were going to talk about today.
Yeah, it started last night at about 4:00, and the snowball effect that came with it was nuts. And somehow the only piece of news in the last 24 hours that is like supposed to be positive news about the Pittsburgh Steelers, maybe the worst of it all. Like, it might be the worst of any of the news that emerged within the last day since we have been on this podcast. Crazy times. We're going to start with, devastating news, guys. Heartbreak in the city of Pittsburgh. Why? Because according to our pal over on Bengals on SI, James Rappian, the Bengals plan to franchise tag none other than T. Higgins. And the top free agent on literally every single list out there. There is not a list that does not name T. Higgins number one top free agent available. Well, they will all scratch them. And all those teams, the New England Patriots, who are ready to give up an arm and a leg to go get him, the Tennessee Titans have been linked to him. The Baltimore Ravens have been linked to him. And the Pittsburgh Steelers, they were pushed heavy. Where? On this show. By me. Every single time. It's done. He remains in Cincinnati. He can't be happy about it, which sucks. Like, you got to feel bad for the guy I guess you got to feel bad for the guy that's about to make $25 million. But you got to feel bad that he's not getting the contract that he probably deserves. And you got to feel bad for teams like the Steelers and the Patriots that are sitting around like, I'll give you such a better home. I'll do it better than they could. And they just won't give him the opportunity. T. Higgins, the news broke. We both messaged each other at the same time and basically said the dream is dead. RIP to the T. Higgins hopes there. I mean, what was your thoughts? What was your reaction? And where do the Steelers go from here?
Yeah, it was always a long shot. They would have had to, one, watch T. Higgins get to free agency, which, as we know now, he doesn't get to free agency. And two, they would have had to outbid everybody else. That's what had to happen, because I think everybody knew that T. Higgins' first option, his first choice, would be to go back to the Cincinnati Bengals, to sign an extension with the Cincinnati Bengals and play there for years to come. Now he's on his franchise tag for the second straight year. He can sign that contract extension, but again, if they haven't gotten to it in 2.5 years, I'm kind of curious as to how they think they're going to get to it before the beginning of this season. But, it's unfortunate for the Steelers. I know it was a long shot, but it was the top name on the board. It was a name that would have come in and changed the trajectory of the Steelers offense next season. But you have to kind of turn the page and look forward to more realistic options, because that's what the Steelers have, because this is just the latest in a long line of top tier wide receivers that the Steelers have been rumored to have some interest, or at the very least be a good landing spot for, and just never materialized.
Yep. I mean, it stinks. It's the end of it. I'll give you two names that right now, to me, become very strong options for the Steelers. Number one is Chris Godwin. The Steelers are going to look at it and go, all right, option one's gone. Who's number two? Because even if the Steelers knew realistically it was a long shot to get T. Higgins, it was going to be difficult, there's no way he was not number one on their board. And there's no way that they aren't kind of taking this personal and just say, all right, we got to go get number two. Like, we got to at least try to go get number two. We weren't even given the option to go try and get number one. And again, like, chances were probably small or at least thin. And they were still going to go out and try. It wasn't going to deter them from it. So now they're going to try at number two. I think number two is Chris Godwin. I think that becomes a strong option for the Steelers. Mike Tomlin loves Chris Godwin. The Steelers have loved Chris Godwin. I just, if he's there and he's somewhat affordable, I could see it happening. Number two is Cooper Kupp. To me, it's just the Steelers watch something come off the board that they desperately need. It was a massive blow to the big giant plan that they have up at UPMC Rooney Sports Complex right now. The easiest way to overreact right now is to go get Cooper Kupp. And I'm not saying they're going to, but I'm saying the easiest way to is to go get Cooper Kupp. And I wouldn't rule it out. I wouldn't rule out a Cooper Kupp trade where the Pittsburgh Steelers just go, yep, let's make it happen. I don't think that happens until after the NFL Combine, maybe during, but that's when they're going to talk. Omar Khan and whoever the GM is for the Los Angeles Rams are going to have conversations in Indianapolis. And if something emerges, awesome. If it doesn't, I'm sure those conversations will continue. Those would be the two names: Chris Godwin, Cooper Kupp. You got to hope realistically Darius Slayton climbs up that ladder. You got to think that realistically Deebo Samuel is climbing up that ladder and becoming a more likable option for the Steelers after this one. I don't think it was hey, this is the only signing, the only splash target that we have at the position. I do think that the Steelers are going to take this as a little bit of a blow and give them just like a little bit of a kick in the butt to just be like, okay, cool. And maybe it just lights a fire that there's the biggest name gone because every other team will have the same reaction. Maybe it leads to, we got to get something done. No waiting around. This is it. And I'm not saying that that's going to happen, but there's always the possibility when it comes to the Pittsburgh Steelers. You have a different name in mind.
Darius Slayton's the name that I'm definitely looking at in the free agent market, and there's not really many others. I mean, we talked to Amari Cooper a couple weeks back. DeAndre Hopkins is an interesting name, but again, do you really want to bring in a 33-year-old? Like, what does he have left when he's not catching passes from Patrick Mahomes? So I think free agency has always been kind of slim pickings. And I know that there's going to be people that are saying, well, why does this change anything? They should have known they weren't going to get T. Higgins. I'd imagine that they view free agency the same way that they view the draft. And you've been consistent in what you say about how they view the draft. They pick the first overall pick. They pick the second overall pick, not because they think they're going to fall, but because that's how they do their process. They put them in the order that they would put them in, and then they go from there. I would imagine they do the same thing for free agency, and everybody's 1.1 in free agency was T. Higgins. So with him off the board, there's not very many other names. There's certainly no names of that caliber. So I think that you start to look at number twos and who has been able to fit in as a number two, and also the age plays a big factor as well. That's why I think Darius Slayton is to me, the top of the list as of right now. And there's not very many other names. Cooper Kupp is up there as well. But like you mentioned, that's a trade piece, not a free agent piece.
All right. So let's pivot to quarterback before we go into the new news. We're just going in order as it happened. Boom, 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 boom. We got four big ones. Number two is Trevor Lawrence, man. Responded to the Pittsburgh Steelers. And it's not the worst thing that he could have said. I don't think it's even a bad thing. If I'm a Jacksonville Jaguars fan, I'm pretty fired up that he's all in on the Jaguars. The Steelers definitely caught a stray, an unintentional stray. There's no intent behind this. There was no ill will behind this, but they definitely walked out of there going, all right, man, what the heck was that? You know what I mean? His response on the Up and Adams show was, I'm happy here in Jacksonville. I plan to win a Super Bowl here, and I think we could do that. I don't want to leave Jacksonville. Quote, I'm not going to Pittsburgh. And the way he said it came with a laugh. The way Kay Adams reacted came with a bigger laugh. Trevor Lawrence, man, I think he had just as much fun as everybody else. You did find out he's got a no trade clause. He let that one be known. And also that he found out the same way everybody else found out on social media with somebody calling him going, hey, dude, just a heads up. You're probably getting traded to the Steelers. Did you hear that one? Did you see that one on Twitter? Trevor Lawrence, dude. I mean, great for you. Awesome. I don't think the reaction is bad, but I did think it was funny.
Yeah, it's simply him saying, yeah, I want to stay here. Like I mentioned, and the reason that I have a no trade clause is because I don't want to leave Jacksonville. I don't think he meant to put Pittsburgh down. And it's the same thing. It feels like anytime Trevor Lawrence says something, he doesn't definitively bury the Steelers, but he doesn't put them in the best light. I mean, we all remember, and I think Cody alluded to this too in the comment section here. He didn't say the terrible towels were bad, but he did call them the little yellow towels. And people in Pittsburgh took offense, even though he didn't mean to give offense. And it feels like the same thing here.
Yes. Trevor Lawrence is just the guy that walks around and for some reason just has his subconscious has a vendetta against the Steelers, and he doesn't even know it. He thinks they're great. He probably has a bunch of respect for them. Somewhere deep inside of him, he's like, I would never go to Pittsburgh. Never. I'd never set foot in that city unless I had to. There's just a little piece of him in there. And, shout out Trevor Lawrence. Shout out Trevor Lawrence. All right, let's talk some real quarterback news here. How about Jeremy Fowler of ESPN tossed this one out there. And man, I think it upsets me for two reasons, and I'll get to that here in a second. He said, quote, this is about Justin Fields and the New York Jets. They could have some interest. They like the idea of a dual threat quarterback. He's younger. I'm told Fields has looked at that roster, sees some intrigue there. They have some good young pieces like Garrett Wilson and a good defense. You hear Justin Fields is intrigued. We'll use the word intrigued by the New York Jets. Two things come to mind. One, the Steelers better be in full blown, get this thing done, stop it, because now it's real. It doesn't matter how big this is. Justin Fields has explored. He has had that conversation, whether it's with himself or his family and friends or teammates or maybe potential teammates in New York or his agent. Doesn't matter. He's had those conversations with at least enough people that it got to Jeremy Fowler. The Steelers are now faced with we cannot let him leave because, well, he's actually considering leaving. That's not good. And that is not where the Pittsburgh Steelers want to be. I think it just pushes the sense of urgency to go get a deal done and not wait around and not take your chances, which is what the Steelers should be doing anyways. There's no part of anybody in Pittsburgh that should be sitting around contemplating where the Steelers go quarterback. It's Justin Fields. We all know it should be Justin Fields. That should not change and should not have changed at all whatsoever. On the other side of it, man, dude, I like Justin. I like what Justin could bring to the field. I like what Justin does. I like him. He seems like a really nice guy. Seems like a good teammate, good leader. I think he's got a boatload of potential. I would hate to see him go to the Jets. That would, why? Don't go throw it all away for the Jets if you're Justin Fields. Don't do that. That's just a risk that is not worth taking. If the options are the Steelers or the Jets, you go to the Steelers every single time. But that being said, I would imagine the Jets are going to throw a lot more money at his face and say, come on, buddy. We got Garrett Wilson and another $5 million. Sounds good. I don't know. Those are my two thoughts. The Steelers better get this thing moving because at this point, it's not looking good. And it's still in a neutral spot. I've checked into this, and what I was told was that Justin's still their guy, but nothing's changed. There's been no movement on we're going to get Justin back. So it just feels like right now it's just a wait and see. And what we're seeing is Justin exploring other rosters to see where his potential other options are. Your thoughts on this?
Yeah, free agents in the NFL and in any sport are looking for two things: money and opportunity. We've both been kind of on the same page here that we think that the New York Jets would be willing to pay Justin more than the Steelers would be willing to pay. Now, how much more? That remains to be seen. The second one is opportunity, and I disagree with you on that one. You say if it's between the Jets and the Steelers, you take the Jets every time. Why?
No, Steelers.
You take the Steelers every time. Why? That's still same question. Why?
Okay.
The Jets don't have this big of names, but their defense is pretty good. Steelers defense is pretty good. Sure. So I'd say that's a wash right now. I mean, the Jets underperformed on defense last year, but I think they have potential to be right up there with the Steelers. Offense wise, you got one weapon in New York. You got one weapon in Pittsburgh. What makes the Steelers that much more of an attractive location for a quarterback right now? The head coach? The
I agree.
Coordinator? I don't know. Like, that's what I look at. I'm saying if the Jets can offer more money, I think the opportunity seems pretty even, especially considering Justin came to Pittsburgh. He played well, and they took that opportunity right out from under him. So what's to stop them from doing it again if they bring in somebody else we're going to talk about to potentially be 1B or the backup? What's to stop them from doing the same thing next year? Whereas if you go to the Jets, you get that opportunity, you probably start the entire season, whether you struggle or not. So I think that there's nothing that's stopping Justin Fields from saying the opportunity is a little bit better in New York than it is in Pittsburgh right now, because you look at last year, the Steelers beat the Jets. They also went to the playoffs, but at the end of the day, they both ended up as close to the Super Bowl as the other, which is not winning it and not winning a single playoff game.
I don't disagree with you. And I think my only argument against the Jets is like the one that everybody's going to use, and it holds strong. Like there's definitely some support behind it. But I hear what you're saying. Like, Aaron Glenn's attractive. You got good offensive weapons there. Like, you definitely need an offensive line, but you were banged up, and you have some pieces there that could grow. You could look into it. The defense is good. I get all that. And, Pittsburgh's not a very attractive place right now. By no means not a very attractive place right now. The Jets just feel like a place where quarterbacks go to die. And it just doesn't. I mean, when was the last time the Jets had a really successful, lasted a long time in the NFL quarterback? Like Mark Sanchez is as close as it gets. And I think he's only got like 8 years which is a great NFL career. Justin's already halfway there. That means he's got 4 years left. Chad Pennington would be the other one that comes to mind. And that's, we were just finding out what football was when Chad Pennington was running around doing his thing for the New York Jets. And I get it. That's a weak argument. It's not that there's no tangibles behind that. So I understand what you're saying. I do understand what you're saying. But again, that's why the Steelers need to do this, and they need to stop, answering around and stop considering anything and just do it, because the Steelers at some point need to realize that they, just like you said, are not that attractive of a location, that they are not a team that that players are going to look at and say, I 100% want to go there. That seems awesome. No, right now they're a bit of a laughing stock in the NFL with a coach that people do not believe in as much, with everybody talking about all the drama all the time. They are a dramatic football team. And yeah, cool. Maybe Aaron Rodgers wants to come here because nobody else wants him. Maybe Russell Wilson wants to come here because nobody else wants him and he doesn't want to go to the Giants. If that's not the top of your list, it's not even close. So you have to look and have a little bit of a sense of urgency. I agree. I think this is a warning shot to me. If I'm the Steelers, I look at this as Fowler just sent a warning shot to the Steelers about Justin Fields might not be 100% in on getting you back. Let me ask you this question. If you got into a bidding war with a team like the Giants or the Jets or the Giants or whoever, how far are you willing to bend here if you're the Steelers? Like we know like, hey, 15 to 20, somewhere in that range feels like a good spot for Justin Fields. Where are you looking to, like, how much you bending before the Jets get them and you just lose your bidding war?
Well, I think that no matter what, if it gets to a bidding war, the Jets will outbid the Steelers, just because historically speaking, it feels like the Jets are a team that if they want the guy, they're going to go out and pay to get the guy. Like they went out and paid to get Aaron Rodgers because they thought that was going to be the cure to all things. So if they think Justin Fields is the cure to all things and Aaron Glenn is saying, this is the guy that I want because this is the guy that's going to help my vision bring what happened in Detroit to happen in New York, I think they'll go out and do that. But if on the Steelers side of things, again, you don't want to overpay Justin Fields because he isn't proven. While he does have the most upside of these quarterbacks, in our opinion, it's not like he's proven to be able to go out and just do it day in and day out and that he's going to be a top level quarterback. So I'm not paying more than 25, certainly. And I think once you get to that 25, 24, 26 meter, that's when you start saying, all right, is it going to be worth it? Or should we just go try to find another Band-Aid, which again, not a great option, but is it better that doing that than overpaying Justin Fields? Probably.
I agree. I think that 25 mark is like where I expect the bend to have to get to. I think anything over that is ridiculous. Like, I get it. I think Justin Fields has a boatload of talent there, but I mean, it's just not worth it. It's just not. Like, at the end of the day, you have to make decisions that put your football team in a position long term to have success. The Steelers are not in a position where they're going to win a Super Bowl in 2025, most likely. So why not try to win one in 2026 or 2027? Why not try to create the next dynasty? You're not going to do that by paying Justin Fields $30 million for a tryout. Like, that's not, and that's the other thing is he's not going to take a 1-year deal. Justin Fields isn't looking for a 1-year deal somewhere. He's looking for 2 or 3, some stability, a little bit of an actual opportunity. The Steelers are going to have to give him that. And I think just that's why you have to look at, if you could sign Justin Fields to 40, 45 million bucks right now, 2 years, do what you got to do. Bend a little bit to get there. Great. Sounds good. Because if it works out, awesome. And if it doesn't, who cares? You know, who cares? You tried and you gave it your best shot, and you got the best option. Like, there's, of all the options, you got the best one. Just because it didn't work out doesn't mean you didn't try your hardest. That's how I'd look at the Steelers. If I'd go from there, all right, let's reverse it. Let's reverse roles right now. If the Steelers whiff on Justin and you got to go to plan B, doesn't matter where that plan B is. It could be Aaron Rodgers, could be Russ, whatever. How much less are you paying for those guys?
Well, the only problem with that is how much less are those guys willing to take, because they're going to have pedigree and their agents are going to bump it up. I would not pay them over 20. I wouldn't pay them anywhere close to 20, because I don't think either of them have what's left in the tank to be worth $20 million to a football team. I would go 15 and start the conversation there. But again, that's just me and what I view as guys like Rodgers, guys like Wilson, guys like who else am I thinking there? Kirk Cousins, especially.
I think, Kirk is a dude. Like, I get the Kirk stuff. Kirk's not winning a Super Bowl, man. Like, he's not. Like, he was a pipe dream for the Falcons that didn't work out. I agree. I think 15 million bucks is where I'm sitting. Like, at that point, what's the difference? What is the difference between Russell Wilson, Kirk Cousins, and Aaron Rodgers? The chance at a Super Bowl? Awesome.
The locker room.
Okay. That's true. The locker room. Shout out Kirk Cousins. Would easily be the best of the 3 to have in there. But I just don't see a big enough difference between the 3 to say, yeah, all right. Because all of them are, you could say Aaron Rodgers gives you the best shot at a Super Bowl. You could say Russ has the most left in the tank. And you could say Kirk is finally a year removed from his Achilles. Maybe that makes a difference. Maybe it does. Maybe it all does. But maybe they are all washed and there's just nothing left. And I think they're all pretty evenly split to you're taking a shot. So just pick one, and whoever's the cheapest, you put it out there. That's a sad reality for the Pittsburgh Steelers, one they can avoid by just signing Justin Fields. But instead, they might do this. According to 93.7 The Fans, Andrew Filipponi, the Pittsburgh Steelers, per sources, have some interest in former New York Giants quarterback Daniel Jones. And I missed the quote, but I'll pull it up right now because the quote is very interested in Daniel Jones-esque. Quote, the Steelers could do a lot worse than Jones. You want to talk about a backhanded compliment and also the perfect way to illustrate exactly what that signing would be. It is that. Yeah, you could do a lot worse than Daniel Jones. Sure. You could probably do a lot better too. And I don't mind Daniel Jones. I think if you're at a spot where you're thinking about Kirk Cousins or Daniel Jones, take a shot on Daniel Jones. You know, go get the guy that's 27 years old and say, screw it. Let's just see. Let's see if it works out. I don't think that he came into the NFL with the ability to be the 5th pick in the draft or whatever he was. I still don't think he stands there, but I still think he's 27. or I know he's 27. And because of that, I'll take a shot on him. Sure, fine, if that's where you're going. The big question here is, because I know everybody is screaming it to all heavens right now, don't sign Daniel Jones. I get it. I agree. Which of the veterans are you putting Daniel Jones over, though, if there is actual interest?
I'd put him over Kirk Cousins right now because I agree with you there. I'd honestly put him over Aaron Rodgers right now.
What about Russ? Not Russ?
No, I'd still take Russ over Daniel Jones next year. I mean, I wouldn't be happy with either scenario, but I would take Russ over Daniel Jones. This makes the most sense to me if we did not know what we just talked about with Justin Fields. If you bring in Daniel Jones as Justin Fields' backup, it makes all the sense in the world, because I just go back to what Art Rooney said to you. He said, we want a quarterback room that has a similar skill set. And when you're looking for backup options behind Justin Fields, Daniel Jones does make a lot of sense. And it would make sense that the Steelers would have interest in Daniel Jones. But as a starting quarterback in 2025, he's low on that list. Yeah, he's below a guy like Russell Wilson, simply because you know what you get with Russell Wilson. And I think that level's just a little bit higher than Daniel Jones. But considering what we've said about Russ, where do you think that puts Daniel Jones and what he can bring to the Pittsburgh Steelers? So when I see this more as a guy that would fit as a backup well. But if you're looking at him as a serious starter, then you're probably looking at a top 5, top 10 pick in the 2026 NFL draft.
So when you said similar skill set, my just very terrible mind went, first round quarterbacks that are looking for a new starting job, huh? That's the one. That's the similarities there. I agree. I think as a backup, it'd be phenomenal. Be a great move. I also think there's an argument to be made for Rodgers or Daniel Jones. I think you could still make the, like, Rodgers might have one last go left in him. I don't think he does, but I'm sure there are some people in the NFL that feel that he could. And because of that, there's an argument to me. Like, Daniel Jones is not a shot. You're not taking a risk on Daniel Jones. You're signing Daniel Jones because you're just saying, we have nothing left. You know, we avoided the situation for too long. We messed up. Again, I revert everything to Madden, and it's a terrible way to do things, but you're doing a fantasy draft in Madden or your regular fantasy football league, and it's round 11, and you went, all right, I got 4 wide receivers and no quarterback. This is not okay. And that's where you're picking there, is you're taking a shot on Daniel Jones, and that's what the Steelers would be looking at. Terrible. I'll ask you this then to wrap up this conversation. You think that there's really any interest in Daniel Jones?
I think if they sign Justin Fields, I think there is legitimate interest as a backup. That's literally where I'm at. When I see this, I understand that a lot of people don't like when Pony puts stuff out, because a lot of the time it feels like he's throwing stuff against the wall to see what sticks. But this one makes sense as a backup. Pony didn't put that in his tweet, but if that's what the actual interest is for, then it does make sense. But I don't know if Daniel Jones has come to that conclusion yet. If he's come to terms with the fact that he's probably not a starting quarterback, even when there's no other really good options on the open market. So if he's come to terms with that, it makes sense as a backup option. It makes sense as somebody that could battle it out with Skylar Thompson to see who gets a helmet on Sundays, but it doesn't make sense to be under center for snap 1 of 2025.
Oh gosh, battle it out with Skylar Thompson. How the first round pick has fallen. That's terrible. I could agree with that. I think there's an actual shot that the word backup was either not included in the conversation, which is a possibility, or
slightly omitted by the person that posted it.
Yeah, not in the tweet, ran out of characters, couldn't fit it in, had to get what you could. You just never know. But I agree. I think as a backup, it works. I think the Steelers will give him a call at least. I really do, especially if a week goes by and nobody has signed Daniel Jones. I bet you he starts negotiating as a backup, and the Steelers try to bring him in. I could also see Daniel Jones coming in as, like, quote unquote competition for Russell Wilson, or quote unquote competition for Justin Fields, something like that, where Mike Tomlin says stuff like pole position, and Daniel Jones hasn't been around long enough to figure out what that means. So I could I could see that. I could see that as a possibility. Either way, pissed a lot of people off this afternoon. I got a lot of emails about this. a lot of emails about Daniel Jones. That's our run through here. It just gets worse and worse and worse. T. Higgins, Trevor Lawrence, Justin Fields to the Jets. I don't know. We'll see. And Daniel Jones. With that said, we need some good news, man. We need some good afternoon. It's the cold. I'm feeling great today. I don't know if it's because, if you guys haven't noticed, we almost wore the same stuff again, but it's just it's a smiley afternoon to talk some poor Pittsburgh Steelers headlines that are going on. So let's finish off the show with some good stuff. And that's answering your questions. We're going to finish this off the same way we do every single day. We're going to answer everything you guys got for us. So toss it in the chat. We'll get to all of it before we head out of here. Nick, what do we got?
Yeah, let's first start off by giving a quick shout out to our newest members, starting with Doug B, who jumped in here before the show and became a member. Shout out to Marlon Lewis, who's been here a long time, always in the chat, always fun to talk with. He jumps into the ranks of the members. Also, J2C joins us as a member. So shout out to those three. Hope to hear from you guys on the call-in show, either this week or one of the next several Wednesdays when we continue to do this.
Yeah, my calendar got pushed up a little bit tomorrow because I realized how many we have, and I'm pumped about it, but I also know I'm going to screw up during this. So, we're going to get some solid takes. Appreciate you guys as always. And I look forward to hearing these questions.
All right, let's jump down to Steelers fan 8. Appreciate you. Says, how do you guys feel about signing Allen Lazard or Davante Adams?
I'd be okay with Davante Adams. I don't know if I'm into Allen Lazard. I think you could shoot a little bit higher than that. Allen Lazard to me is like, there's a pretty significant gap between the Van Jeffersons and the Allen Lazards, but I also think there's an even wider gap between the Van Jeffersons and where the Steelers want to be with their receiver room. Like, to me, Allen Lazard is a wide receiver 3, and that's cool, but the Steelers have 2 of those already. They don't need more. And Davante Adams to me is a wide receiver 2, and you could bring him in as a wide receiver 2. I'd be okay with that if the money works out for the Steelers and they have a plan, whether it's drafting Emeka Egbuka, who I spoke to somebody today who gave me the biggest glowing review on that guy, just talking about how by the end of this cycle, if he makes it to 21, he might be the steal of the draft. So that could be huge. If they're going to go that route, I like it. I don't know if I'm like overly sold on either one of them. You can make an argument for Davante Adams.
Let's go to Miguel, who says, the way Mike Tomlin handled things last season, no one should be surprised that Justin Fields would look elsewhere. Mike Tomlin's shine is just a coating of tarnish at this point. I wanted to make sure I got that last
yes. One right. I was reading it too. I was just like, what? And then I was like, oh yeah, no, it makes a lot of sense. Yeah, I agree. I don't think that the Steelers handled Justin Fields properly. I don't know how open communication was throughout that whole process. I also don't know if it was ever communicated well enough from the beginning to understand exactly what's going on and why the decision was made. I also think Mike Tomlin kind of shot himself in the foot a couple of times through it by saying stuff like, that's why I get paid the big bucks. It's like, dude, you just benched somebody now you're going to try to bring him back. Like, go look at that comment again. It looks way worse from Justin Fields' side. So I agree with you. I think that the Steelers hurt themselves in this situation. And I don't know. Me and Nick were big Justin Fields guys from the jump. So, if he listened to us, he would have been here, but Mike T doesn't do that.
Let's go to Demetrius, who says, if Justin Fields leaves, serves Tomlin right. He alone screwed him last year. If Fields leaves, no free agent wide receiver will sign, not knowing who the quarterback is. Dumb Ranger.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. That was the Davante Adams thing last year. Was Davante Adams wanted to come to the Pittsburgh Steelers, and the only reason he didn't is because, Aaron Rodgers. But the second reason he didn't was because he didn't know who the quarterback was going to be. And he didn't like that the Steelers were bouncing between quarterbacks and not promising Justin Fields anything. So I 100% agree. I think you're hurting free agent wide receivers. I wouldn't be surprised if a guy like Daniel Jones ends up in Pittsburgh and guys like George Pickens are asking for trades to get out of here because they don't want to be part of this. That wouldn't surprise me either. I just think it leads to a boatload of problems. The Steelers have an opportunity to figure that out now. That's the thing, is you can sign Justin Fields today, take all that worry away, set yourself up to head into free agency with your quarterback. You know, you have your QB. You are ready to do this. All you got to do is let the world know, hey, Justin's our guy. Who wants to come play with them? I guarantee you there's a couple people out there who do. So I agree with you. I think that, you know, they just hurt themselves every day that they let this thing drag out.
All right, let's go to Madeline, who says, what needs to happen for the Steelers to pull the trigger on Justin Fields? It should be a no-brainer. He has a good relationship with the coaches and has been in the system for a year now. Why such a long wait?
I believe it's two sides. I believe it's the Steelers just holding off negotiations because, again, I called and checked in today, and it was not what I like. There's nothing. There's nothing to call and check on. That's the craziest part. There's nothing to call and check on. And I also believe that, you know, there is a part of Justin and definitely his agency who are sitting around saying we could probably get a bigger deal if we go into free agency. So what do we want to do? So I would guess it's both sides. Neither of them are really pushing for this. When they sit down, they better figure it out fast because you're running out of time. Like if you started negotiations now, you have 2.5 weeks, 3 and a couple of days to get it done before legal tampering period begins. And once that starts, you're like, it's over. You know, you have just entered level 2 of a much more difficult situation. So that's not that long to negotiate a multi-year tens of millions of dollars for your quarterback deal with any team, especially a team that takes forever to sign guys. So I don't know, but I would imagine it's both sides that are holding this up.
Let's go to Pittsburgh Hornets, who says, how optimistic are you about wide receiver? And is the Cup trade a half full or half empty look at
it? Did you see what he did there? Is the cup half full or half empty? That's phenomenal. Mm-hmm. I think Cup's half full. I do. I think Cooper Kupp's going to be very good in 2025. I don't know if he's going to stay healthy the whole year, but when he's healthy, he's good. And I'm not giving up on Cooper Kupp by no means. I'm not going to sit here and say he's not a good wide receiver. I think he is. I am pretty optimistic about wide receiver, though. I don't think the Steelers are going to ignore it. I don't know how they go about it, but I imagine multiple splashes for this team this offseason. And I'm not talking boring splashes. I'm talking multiple, okay, that's a good move, splashes for the Steelers. I do see it coming.
All right, let's jump down to Marlon, who says, will the Steelers sign their quarterback before or after the combine? These stories are starting to get a little too aluminum hat for me.
We went full aluminum hat when Trevor Lawrence was coming to the Steelers. That's when we went full. Whole house was covered in aluminum. It was covered in tinfoil, actually. I think it'll be after the combine. A lot of conversation happens. A lot of conversation happens during the combine between agents, players, coaches, that kind of stuff. I mean, like, I remember last year being out and like being told by somebody that they were just told by somebody's agent that they were going to be released on March. And that's where it happened, like at the social event that we were at. So much conversation happens down there. I would imagine that it's afterwards. That's when like the conversation probably really gets going.
Let's go to Steven, who says, do you think we'll get an actual decent wide receiver in free agency? I feel like Khan's specialty is shopping in the bargain bin.
Yes and no. It is and it isn't. You got I think everybody, takes some of these things at wide receiver and is like, it's okay. But I also think if you look at it from a bigger perspective, he didn't bargain shop for Patrick Queen. That was a massive signing. Even if it didn't work out the way that they wanted to in year one, that was a massive name to go out and sign. I don't think he was bargain shopping with Dante Jackson. That was another big name who he could move pretty well and went out and did it. He's made some others. I mean, Isaac Seumalo in my eyes was not a bargain guy. That was not a bargain signing for the Steelers at all. I thought that was a big name. And I don't think I thought Cole Holcomb was the same thing. Along with Deshaun Elliott, who I don't think is a bargain guy. I think we just didn't know who he was. So it's yes and no. Like they're a wide receiver, certainly, but he was also shooting for the stars with Brandon Ayuk. And if Ayuk didn't sign a deal in San Francisco, he would have been here. So I have some hope that he's looking to make some splash.
Let's go to Macaroni Salad, who says, question, if you could only sign one, would you sign Darius Slayton or Christian Kirk if he does indeed get cut?
I'd probably go Darius Slayton. I think I'd go Darius Slayton. I think Darius Slayton has more upside as a number two. I think we know we're getting out of Christian Kirk 800 yards, couple of touchdowns, which is really good. That's a good place to be. I think Darius Slayton's got like big season potential with the right team.
Let's go to Justin. Appreciate you as always. Justin says Steelers Nation is seeking comfort in youth on the offense. It corresponded with the struggle bus with him. He's just a fast Kenny Pickett. Justin Fields is a big if. Russ is a bridge.
I mean, I agree with both of these things. I agree that Justin Fields is a big if and Russ is a bridge quarterback. I think you take a shot on a 25-year-old big if any day of the week. I don't, who was the 11th pick in the draft. Like, I just think that that's where you go with this one. You're not in a spot where you need a bridge quarterback. There's nothing to bridge. There's nobody behind him. There's nobody learning. There's nobody developing. You're picking 21st in the NFL draft. Like, there's nobody and no situation to bridge for Russell Wilson. So he's just your starter. You might as well take the big if and see if it works out. If it does, awesome. If it doesn't, okay, you're in the same spot a year from now as you would be with Russ. So I'd say, why not see if it works out?
Let's go to American Steel, who says start bench cut. I'm loving all these start bench cuts.
Yeah, me too.
But this one's not going to be easy. Franco Harris, Jerome Bettis, Le'Veon Bell. Inquiring minds want to know.
No, I know right off the bat here. You ready? We're starting Franco because, you could say whatever you want about like the game was different, blah, 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 blah. I don't know. We're going centuries. Okay. We're not playing 2025 football. We're going centuries. Franco Harris was like the turning point of the Steelers. He was the reason that the Steelers went from fantastic, like probably would have had a dynasty anyways, to like the dynasty started. That was Franco Harris. So Franco's one. As wild as this is going to sound, I think I'm benching Le'Veon Bell. I think if Le'Veon never held out, I don't know, like Adrian Peterson played during his time, he would have never beat him, but he's probably up there and like amongst the best running backs of his generation if he didn't do it. I think I'd cut Bettis, but I think that's just me kind of like trying to throw a curveball. I don't think there's any argument to be made for it to be that way.
Yeah. The whole Franco was the beginning. I mean, still he was, but are you starting him because of the Immaculate Reception and the Immaculate Reception only? Like that's what it sounds like your reasoning is.
No. I mean, yeah, he was the star because of that, but he was the difference. Like the Steelers didn't have the offense before. Yeah. Franco shows up all of a sudden. Now, don't get me wrong. Franco shows up, Lynn Swann, like everybody shows up, but Franco was he got the ball roll. Are you going? What's yours then? What's yours? I want to hear yours.
I'd go Bettis starting, Franco on the bench.
Oh, okay. I was nervous that you were about to cut Franco right now.
I was not going to cut Franco. I'm not going that far. Jesus,
that was wild. But all right, I respect that. I think I'm throwing a curveball out there with the Bell Bettis thing. Maybe just because I caught Bettis at the end of his career. I don't know.
All right, let's go to Solo One. Appreciate you. Says, I said it mid-season that benching Justin Fields would be the downfall of Tomlin. If we don't get Fields, he's going to the Browns. I will be sick when that happens. What three teams outside of the Steelers do you think he could end up with? The Raiders, potentially?
Yeah, the Raiders, the Browns. I think the Titans, the Jets, certainly. Obviously, the Giants, I think, could be out there as well. I mean, I think you could get crazy with teams like Indianapolis. I think Indianapolis, if they saw an opportunity, would see what they could get for Anthony Richardson, which is probably something, and go with Justin Fields because that's they're not totally sold or happy with Anthony Richardson. I think that could be an outside team looking in. There's at least 5 or 6 of them that I think would make a run at Justin Fields and try to get him. That's the problem. That's the thing. I get where we stand right now, but every day that passes, we get closer to Justin Fields being the top quarterback in the free agency class. And that's not where you want to be if you're the Steelers. So it's bad. The downfall of Tomlin, man, I think it could be the downfall of the 2025 season for the Steelers for sure, dating back to the day that they benched him.
Let's go to Smooty Booty, who says Fields is as good as gone. Who's plan B?
I'm guessing their plan B is Russell Wilson. That's what I'm guessing. I wonder how much that ship has sailed, though. How bad that bridge is on fire currently. What one of the 460 are there? Or is it? I would say Russ is number 2. I also think that Aaron Rodgers is going to climb up that list rather quickly if Fields does go somewhere else, just because I could see Mike Tomlin being convinced that that's the answer. I could see Art Rooney being convinced that that's the answer. And if they think it is, they could. But I would say Russ is probably number 2.
All right, let's jump to Cody Silva, who says KC signed an old Pittsburgh quarterback. Who was that?
We know who it was the man, myth, the legend himself, the 2-time Super Bowl champion, former 7th round pick for the Pittsburgh Steelers, and current Kansas City Chiefs runner-up for what would have been a historic, the man who helped create the dynasty in Kansas City by helping train a defense, none other than Chris Oladokun. That's who they signed. Once again, signed a new futures deal. Shout out the Kansas City Chiefs. Shout out Chris Oladokun. I'll say it for the 400th time. When they make it 30-30 on the 2022 NFL draft class and how bad the quarterbacks were, Chris Oladokun and his freaking 11 Super Bowls better be in there. They better.
Let's go to Doug, who says, where are these changes that we were told were going to happen? Do you guys see any more coaching changes coming before Latrobe?
Yeah, I don't know. It was all talk, huh? It always is all talk with the Pittsburgh Steelers. They're real good at talking. The only other change I could see being made is defensive line coach. That's the only other one that I think is realistic. They could hire a different outside linebackers coach. Denzel Martin and Carl Dunbar are both technically free agents, I guess. Their contracts didn't expire, or their contracts were not renewed so far. That could change. I think you should extend maybe both of them. If I had to guess what one wouldn't come back, it would probably be Carl Dunbar. That would be my assumption. But I don't know. I don't have any backing to that. I don't know why that would be. Just seems like those are the two who to have your eyes on right now. That would be the only guesses that I had so far.
Let's jump down to Gregory, who says, if the Steelers went wide receiver at 21 and Ibuka, Burden, and Golden are all there, who's the pick?
It's Ibuka. No questions asked. It's Ibuka. I don't think Burden is NFL first round talent. I don't. I think he's undersized. He's all speed. Cool. I just don't. To me, he's not a game changer. You have to have a game changer at pick 21. Golden is close, but I view him, maybe it's just the Texas thing, but I view him as an AD Mitchell. I don't know if that's going to work out. Emeka Ibuka, I had a conversation today where it was just like, this dude is every piece of good that you think he is and more. And I was just like, the Steelers need that. So my pick would be Ibuka. I think he fits any offense, and he comes from winning culture. He's worked with 2 quarterbacks at this point, and both of them are, pretty good. So he's got experience helping quarterbacks develop. I would go Emeka Ibuka.
Yeah, I think I'm on the same lines with you there. And I would put Golden over Luther Burden too. I've been saying Ibuka since before the college football playoff started, and I'm not going to change now. It would take a miracle for me to not think that he's the best out of that crop. I know you're not high on Teteroa McMillan, but if McMillan fell, I would certainly put him over Ibuka, but I have a hard time believing anybody's going to be at 21 that's going to make me think that them going whoever that is over Ibuka was a good decision.
Yeah, I agree. And I'd put McMillan over him too. If he somehow fell to 21, unbelievable. But no wide receivers being taken in 21 picks, that would never in a million years happen.
Just one, and it was Travis Hunter.
Yeah, half of one. Half of one.
Half. Let's go to Deluxe Skittles. Appreciate you. Says, do we think Justin Fields talking about other teams is possibly just trying to force the Steelers' hand to offer a decent deal?
Maybe. Could be. It is the time of the year where games are getting played. In every direction, games are getting played. That's why if you go to any article that I write that has like that source, it's a source article or whatever, any news that I drop always comes with like a little disclaimer at the bottom that's like, the Steelers would be open if this happened instead. Why? Because every time I'm on the phone, every time I'm having those conversations, every time I'm, shooting text back and forth, I always make sure to ask, we're positive that there's nothing that could change the mind here, because chances are there's games being played in one direction. It's always a little bit political. So I think it could. I don't know if it's going to, but I think it could be.
All right, let's go to Justin again, who says, what about Deontay Johnson for a cheap prove-it deal?
I would welcome Deontay Johnson back any day. He did sign, I believe the waiver claim with Baltimore means that he's on their roster in 2025. I'm not 100% positive on that one, but I'm pretty sure. If not, I'd bring him back. I'd easily bring back Deontay Johnson. There were not the other issues in Pittsburgh, and while there were issues, most of those guys are gone that he had issues with. So I'd bring him back. I think he's a reliable wide receiver. People don't like him because of the drops. It's been a couple of years since those drops have been around, and everybody drops footballs. DeAndre Hopkins dropped a football in the Super Bowl. So it happens to everybody. I'd do it. I'd bring back Deontay Johnson.
As of right now, Spotrac has Deontay Johnson as an unrestricted free agent.
All right. Well, yeah, I'd bring him back on a cheap deal. I definitely would.
All right. Let's go to Grayson the Ginger, who says, hey, Nick and Noah, do we have to censor ourselves when we call in? I called in once earlier after I, in the words of Pat McAfee, smoked some vitamins, but I'm drinking tonight and I'm going to call in again.
You have to censor yourself in a way that I don't want anybody to feel uncomfortable on the show. So say what you want to say, let out a shit or two if you need to, but I would keep it at that level and enjoy your night.
Let's go to Candy. Appreciate you, Candy. Says, renaming Acrisure Stadium. Is it Steel City Stadium, Yinzer Stadium, or City of Bridges Stadium? Unless you have another option.
I kind of like the Steel City Stadium. I'm a little bit about that. I think Yinzer's would be cool too. City of Bridges doesn't give me
a lot. Pittsburgh
Steelers enough. Steel City Stadium, I kind of like that. Unless you got a different one.
I like Heinz Field. I think that sounds like a pretty good one. You can name it. Listen, if Heinz, Kraft Heinz has a problem with that, just name it Heinz Field, Hines. Now,
yeah,
Heinz Ward already has a fairly big head. I'm sure that would make it much bigger, but hey, the fans would like it.
They would like it. I think it's just nuts to that like somehow we have the name of the Pittsburgh Steelers Stadium forever. We'll always just like latch on to a Cleveland ketchup company, which is just ironically beautiful. I think I love it.
It's the story of the AFC North through and through. These teams are tied by more than just the division they play in.
They are through ketchup itself.
Let's go to Gregory Collins, who says, I'm wanting to try NFL podcasting. Do you have any tips?
Yeah, just post, man. Post all the time. But don't ever stop posting. I tell my brother's trying to get into YouTube. That's like, he's doing the whole, like, I'm going to be a streamer thing. And my word of advice to him is always the same. Just post. If you got time, post. If you got time, create a clip of that post, like that's the best thing, dude. Sick, not sick, our best days and our worst days, we jump on here because, we got you guys and we owe this to you. So think about it like that. What can you bring to people and make sure that you keep bringing it to them because, they're looking for it. So it's kind of your obligation to them.
Let's go to Pittsburgh Hornets, who says, what's a possible unconventional QB trade that would make you smile like a butcher's dog?
That comment made me smile like a butcher's dog, actually.
Gotta love a good Mike Langism.
Unconventional. Anthony Richardson. We just talked about him, or I just mentioned him a couple minutes ago. Anthony Richardson. Steelers somehow land Anthony Richardson. Sure, why not? Yeah, I'm totally okay with that. You want to try to develop him? Great. Doesn't work out? Okay, yeah, I can see it not working out. But Anthony Richardson would be the unconventional quarterback trade that I think would make me smile. I mean, amongst many, but I think that's the only like unconventional, realistic one.
Yeah, the one I was trying to think of was Joe Milton, just because it would be so much fun to see what he would do in Latrobe. Like that would make me smile for the simple fact that August would be spent watching Joe Milton throw absolute bombs in Latrobe, Pennsylvania. That would make me smile.
It would. It actually would. That would.
It would mean nothing by the regular season, but during preseason, it'd be great.
It'd be the best time. I'd be about Joe Milton. JJ McCarthy'd be my other one. That'd be a sleeper, but I'd be all about it.
Let's go to Taylor, who says, we all know TJ needs to be moved around. We need to blitz more and in general need to be more creative on defense. But do you think Tomlin will ever be open to making these changes, or will it be more of the same in 2025?
I mean, if I had to guess, it's going to be a lot of the same in 2025 because it's been a lot of the same in 2024 and 2023, so on. I do expect TJ to be moving around a little bit, though. I do expect that change to happen. I just don't think the defense and their scheme and how things are going to change or how things are going to adjust is going to change. I just think that TJ moving around is probably the best that anybody's going to get, which could have massive impact. But I don't expect more of anything else because there's been no indication, no matter how much anybody talks, that that's ever going to be a thing.
All right, let's go to Grayson, who says, hey, Nick and Noah, who stands out in your mind as having the most holy shit, how did he even do that kind of plays that you've seen in person during games and or in practice?
Yeah, I mean, George Pickens is like constantly doing this. It's pretty much every single day you're going, I don't know how a human does this. That's pretty unbelievable. Yeah, especially like I try to think of ones that I've seen like in person, and like the George Pickens Thursday Night Football in Cleveland, his rookie season, I think the sideline catch that was unhuman. That was crazy. But I've also seen him, like I remember when he was a rookie, I asked him twice if the catch that he made in practice was better than OBJ's like touchdown catch. Mm-hmm. And both times he said that actually wasn't even the craziest catch I've ever had. And I was like, I can't believe that you would do something crazier than that. I don't remember what it is, but they're always like one-handed, falling to the ground. You're like got 8 guys on you. It doesn't make any sense how you just contorted your body that way. Catches. The George Pickens is a freak.
Let's go to AJ, who says, sup, Noah and Nick. What do you think about a wide receiver room of George Pickens, Cooper Kupp, Emeka Egbuka, Calvin Austin, Roman Wilson, and of course, the man, the myth, the legend, Benny Skoranek?
Yeah, I mean, I think that'd be phenomenal. I think that'd be a great wide receiver room, start to finish, top to bottom. I love every single person on it. I think it'd be great. I'd hope that you'd be able to use everybody. You know, Cooper Kupp, Calvin Austin, Roman Wilson all kind of play the same position a little bit. But I do think if you could make it work, I would really like that room. I don't want anything to be taken away from Calvin Austin. I think he's got a lot of development and growth coming in 2025.
Let's go to Lindsay, who says, now that there's the T. Higgins news, do you see the Steelers paying George Pickens this year?
No, I don't. I don't think the T. Higgins news or any move that the Steelers make or don't make this season changes the George Pickens news. I don't think George gets a deal this offseason. I haven't heard any conversations that he's going to. I still think it's on the table for him to potentially be moved, but I know for certain that he's not for certain, but I'm pretty confident he's not going to get a deal this offseason.
Let's go to Sean, who says, do you think James Daniels resigns on a cheap deal due to his injury, or do you think they'll give Mason McCormick a shot? I think Daniels would solidify our line, have 2 vets in between the 2 young guys.
Yeah, I think James Daniels is the smarter move. But I don't think it's going to happen. I would imagine the only way it does happen if he hits the open market and realizes quickly that his value is pretty depleted and he could sign a 1-year kind of prove it deal in Pittsburgh. If that's the case, cool. But if he gets a 1-year prove it deal in Philly or a 1-year prove it deal, in like Kansas City, he's going to go there first because his prove it deal is going to look way better and he's going to have a shot at a Super Bowl. So unless he's incredibly cheap and they aren't looking or nobody's looking at him, I don't see James Daniels on their radar.
Let's go to Renee, who says, hey guys, do you plan on doing a mock draft on the show? That would be awesome.
Yeah, we do at least. I think we only did one last year, right? But we do at least one a year on here. We'll try to do a couple of them this year. They are a blast. They are a good time.
Yeah, last year we did a mock draft and we also did a big board on the show.
Oh yeah, the big board,
which was a lot, but it was a lot of fun.
That was a lot. I do actually remember us jumping on the calls coming up with that.
We were sitting there and by the 3rd or 4th round, we're like, listen.
Yeah.
Sure.
I totally
go in that bucket.
My brain completely erased that one. It was just like, nah, this one was too tiring. We're done here. That was a good time.
Let's close it out with 2 start bench cuts, starting with Rufal Troll, who says start bench cut, Daniel Jones, Mason Rudolph, or rookie Jackson Dart.
All right. I'm starting Mason Rudolph. I'm sorry. He's the only one of the 3 that I'm looking at and saying there's any potential here that he is a bridge quarterback. Okay. Daniel Jones is not a bridge quarterback. If you're going to take a shot at a guy, I'm taking a shot at Jackson Dart in this scenario. Mason is either my backup or I don't care. I'm sorry. He's a better backup than Daniel Jones. Mason Rudolph in my eyes is a quality veteran, proven backup in the NFL. I'm starting Mason Rudolph as my bridge guy. I'm benching Jackson Dart as my future. Daniel Jones, dude, go somewhere else. It's fine. I don't care. But that's my start bench cut is that 3.
I am in the exact opposite order, I think. I would start Jackson Dart because he has upside and he's unproven and you never know what can happen. I'm benching Daniel Jones because, as I said, as a backup, he fits. And Rudolph can go lead somebody else's sleigh somewhere else because I'm not interested in seeing him come back to the Steelers.
Oh, good old Mason Rudolph, man.
Let's finish it off with Richard Hunt, who says start bench cut, Mike T, Cower Power, or Chucky Knoll.
So you got to start Chuck Knoll, right? There's no other answer here besides Chuck Knoll. I'm benching Bill Cowher. I'm cutting Mike Tomlin. The reason I'm benching Bill Cowher and cutting Mike Tomlin, it's not like people could look back and be like, Bill Cowher, man, that guy was the best. He's so much better than Tomlin, blah, 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 blah. Yes and no. Okay. Yes and no. Bill Cowher won 1 Super Bowl. You got to remember that. You got to put that into perspective here. Won 1 Super Bowl and did a lot of the same of what Mike Tomlin did. I mean, to be honest with you, there were times where Bill's teams were not that good. Now, the difference is that Bill made it through some playoff rounds. Bill got to the AFC Championship game a couple of times. The shot was there. With Mike T, there's long-term, there was no shot. So, or there's been no shot. So I'm going Chuck Knoll, Bill Cowher, good old Mike T.
All right. That's a wrap for today then.
Awesome. With that said, guys, we are heading out of here. Thank you so much for jumping on to another episode of All Steelers Talk. Make sure to subscribe to us on YouTube, youtube.com/All Steelers Talk. Check us out anywhere you get your podcasts. And as always, find all of our work at si.com/NFL/Steelers. Remember to leave your voicemails for the call-in show tomorrow. That will go out roughly about 12 p.m. Eastern time. We will see you then and then on the live stream tomorrow afternoon. Until then, enjoy a beautiful day in the Berg. Peace.